The first step is we gotta pull the PTFE tubing from the back, and you can release it by opening up the AMS hub cover. Then on the inside, that little button right there with the arrows, you push down, while at the same time you're pulling out the tubing in the back, and that will release it for you. All right, next we'll remove these front rollers. These are super important. We definitely need to set these aside and save them. We're gonna be using those in the Python. A lot of stuff you can throw away, you can't throw away these. So just set these to the side. Okay, so with the front rollers out of the way, we can actually get to the guts of this thing by taking out the 2 screws right here, and that allows access to the inside of the Bambu AMS. One little tip I found, that the Allen wrenches that come with your Bambu printer actually have a better reach than, in my case at least, the electric screwdriver I had. So just save yourself the time, maybe use the Allen wrench for this part. It's the only part I found it was more helpful on. All right, now a little preview. So for this step, we're gonna be sliding up the middle frame, and we're gonna be detaching it from the outer frame by detaching the wires. So we've already freed the screws. Now you just pull it up. It might get caught on where the tubing went in, and you might have to push that down, or you can just kind of force it and free that from the outer frame. Once it's free, you'll tug up on it and start to feel the resistance of the wires that are still attached, and you'll have to reach around through that opening and detach the wires. All right, for the next step, we're gonna remove the main board from the new AMS. And here's one way you can mark it. See how it's just a straight line, but they're all in different areas, like starting from the left side, going to the right side. That way you know where each plug is gonna go to later on. And it's really important to mark both the cable and where it plugs into, because you can bend the little pins on the inside if you don't put it in the right way. So I went ahead and just used like different colored marker for it, but you could use that line method too. Okay, now to free the main board after you have everything marked, there's 4 buckles on each corner that you can just flip over, and then there's 2 screws in the middle. So go ahead and take those out, and then you can just take that main board. We're definitely going to use that in the Python. Set it with those 4 rollers from the beginning. Okay, the next step to gut this new Python is we got to remove the filament hub, and that's this little guy here. You want to start by just removing the tubing by pressing down on it, pulling out the tubing for each 4 ones, and then you can free its cables. They're just behind this little buckles that you slide it under. Then that frees up 4 screws to be taken out, and you can remove the whole filament hub. One thing I forgot to mention is that as you free the cables, one of them is glued in there, so you may want to use some tweezers to free it from the glue. Once that filament hub is freed, you can flip the entire plastic piece around, so we're looking back at the top of it, or the front, the way it came. And you can remove the back rollers. These you don't need to save, unlike those front rollers that we set aside earlier. These back rollers we're not going to use in the Python build, and they just pull right out. All right, now to remove the first stage feeders, we got 4 screws for every feeder. So you're gonna go on one side, remove the screws, then you're gonna go on the other side and just pinch on it and remove it. All right, next step is stripping out the RFID boards from the new Bambu unit. And there's some glue on there, so you got to use a knife or you got to use some tweezers or something like that to pull them out. Then they slide out really easy. All right, we're done. We just removed everything, stripped and gutted the AMS main unit, and basically you're all done with that new AMS. Let's just take a second and review the stuff that you definitely want to keep for the Python. We need 4 front rollers, 4 feeders, the main board, the filament hub, and then your 2 RFID boards. Oh, as well as your rear PCB, and remember to bring the screws for that rear PCB. All right, so one last little step before you take a break or just call it a quits on this first day. You remember that first step when we took out those front rollers? These ones right here? Okay, the gear, when I talk about a gear, it's that thing in the circle right there. And this is a step that you can screw up. Everything I read online of people messing stuff up, saying be careful on a step, this was the #1 thing that people screwed up, because if you take off the wrong side, then you need another AMS unit, I suppose, or you have to find a way to get these rollers. So you want to take off the sleeve on the opposite side of the gear. So if you hold the gear side in your hand, that'll set you up for taking off the right side. You just wanted to remove the side without the gear like I'm doing here. But when you do 4 in a row, if you're not thinking about it, I nearly almost did it on my last one. I got in the habit of just like pulling them off, not really paying attention. And I almost took it off the wrong side. So the side without the gear is the side you want to remove, just like in this little video. And I found the best way is just take like a screwdriver, especially if there's a flathead on it, stick it under that sleeve, maybe even stick it all the way through it, use that to like pry it up and fold the bottom, the circumference of the sleeve in the bottom, and then you can just slide it off. So I got better at it. I mean, this first one took me a minute, but you get pretty quick at it. It's not that hard. And if there's one thing this video gives to somebody, it's just that I hope I stressed enough to take off the side without the gear, that you don't screw this part up. Okay, one last thing that I want to say and not forget to say on these videos is, rather than begging for a like or you to subscribe, I really think that if you build the Python, you have the money to donate $5 to Humebeam, who designed this, to give it out. All this open source stuff is amazing. Like, all this 3D printing community is just built on this kind of stuff. I'm not a maker, I'm a straight up taker. I just get on there and just rob everyone's models. So, you know, I don't know if you're anything like me, I'm imagining a lot of people are. Just give it up for the guy who made the model, and let's just throw him enough to get a coffee or a Monster or something. I'll leave the link in the description, but look this man up.